Welcome to InfoPlace Canada's YouTube channel. Hi everyone, it's Florence Akpan here again. I am a regulated Canadian immigration consultant and I am the founder and lead consultant of InfoPlace Canada. I help immigrants looking to immigrate to Canada through study or any of the permanent residence programs that we have. We do visiting visa, study permit, work permit, and permanent residence provincial programs, the whole 9 yards. Thank you for watching and welcome to my channel. Today I will be talking about studying in Canada. Most of the times I get messages from people, I want to come to study in Canada, where do I start, what do I do, and things like that. This video is really going to be walking you through that process as to what your thought process should be, the things you should consider when you're looking to study in Canada. Again, this video is going to be very general, just to give you a general idea of things to look at for your own unique specific advice and direction on exactly what you should do. You could do some more research yourself, or you could book a consultation with me. I do have consultations that I offer to potential clients, and you can find out more about what your options will look like to come to Canada. So I want to study in Canada. Where do I start? What is the first thing that I need to know? I think it's very important to know the cost. The cost is a good place to start because it gives you that gauge to know if this is something you can actually afford, if this is a journey that you can actually embark on. Average cost of studying in Canada for an undergraduate program is about 27,000 Canadian dollars. That's 18-19 stats. For master's program is about 17,000 Canadian as well. And I would say same for postgraduate diplomas actually, because they're pretty much like the cost is the same. Maybe anywhere 15 to 17,000 is what you would get for postgraduate diplomas. That's your average cost, and that's average. So now the next thing, once you determine what that average cost is okay, what is your program of study? If you're coming for undergraduates, I would say it's sometimes very easy because it will just depend on what your passion had been and what you did well with your high school grades. If you were more science inclined, you'll be looking for programs in the science field. If you are more arts inclined or business, you'll be looking for programs in those fields. Now, if you're coming for more of a postgraduate diploma, you can actually change your career path with a postgraduate diploma actually. You could have done microbiology and then you could come for a postgraduate diploma in business management. Yes, I do have a lot of clients who have done that. Postgraduate diplomas are very good if you're trying to change your career path. It's a good way to do that. Master's program, not so much, because for master's program, the application requirement is always looking for people who have either graduated from a related program in that field or who have work experience in that field. So you cannot really switch if you're looking for a master's program, except you're going for a master's program that is not really program specific. And I would say program specific, that's like maybe masters in like management or masters in business administration. Anybody, be it a doctor, engineer, pharmacist, anybody could do masters in business administration. But if you're looking to do like masters in public health or masters in engineering, then you need to actually have bases, like a bachelor's degree in that field to be able to go into that. I hope that kind of explains it. With master's program, sometimes it's not very easy to totally change your field. You have a lot more flexibility with postgraduate diploma if that is the area and the route that you're looking to take. Once you determine, okay, this is going to be a master's, then you know exactly what program based on your experience that you will be choosing. I always advise that sometimes it's also good to, if you're coming for a postgraduate diploma, now I'm not talking about undergraduate now, but these are for applicants who have already had work experience in their field of study, or not in their field of study, they've already had work experience. If you're coming to study in Canada, it's always very advisable to get into a program in the field that you already have work experience in. And the reason is because long term, it's going to benefit you more to do that if you go to a totally different route. The reason is because when you graduate, you have some work experience in that field already. It makes it a lot easier for you to find a job. If you don't have work experience in the field you're coming to study in already, it's not the end of the world. You can still do very well as well. It's just that, of course, you're going to have to do a lot more work to prove that you actually have experience, or maybe take on some part-time jobs in that field and do some volunteer work while you're in school. That's determining, okay, what do I do? What program? What are the things to look at? Those are the key things that you have to look at. Also looking at the requirements for the program as well. For master's program in Canada, The minimum requirement for most of the schools in Canada is that you have graduate with a B+ and above, or a 75% average and above to stand a good chance of getting into a master's program. There's also the requirement that you have some work experience in that field as well. It's very important to ensure that you know the requirements before you start, because if you just wake up and say, I'm just applying for a master's program because I like it, I want to do it, you might run into a situation where you actually don't get into that program, and it's really because you did not meet the criteria. Postgraduate diplomas are a lot flexible. Even as low as third class can get into a postgraduate diploma program in Canada. We've successfully placed a lot of students with third class in Canada with admissions, so it's possible. Second class lower, you could get in and all of that. So you have a lot more flexibility with that in terms of the criteria and the requirement. Master's program will require that you have references, you have letter of intent done, you have your resume and all of that. Most postgraduate diploma programs don't really require that much from you. They don't need letters of intent, they don't need references. It's really just your grades and your transcript and your resume that gets you in and gets you the admission for those programs. So they're very flexible. For undergraduate program, basically your high school result, or for my West African clients, you're looking at your WAEC result. So your West African Examination Council result is what would get you into an undergraduate program in Canada. So knowing those requirements are very important. Once you determine that, then you know that you're able to start your application process and go through that and hopefully get an admission. And one of the things when you determine the program and find the school you're going to, the things that you need to look at are making sure that the school is a designated learning institution, DLI. All designated learning institutions are the only schools that are allowed to have international students. If you secure admission in a school that is not a designated learning institution, you will not be able to get a study permit. It's very important to ensure that you have that. All of the schools will have the DLI number. Make sure you find that and you're satisfied that they have that before you proceed. It's also important when you're applying to look long term. Sometimes applicants come and fall in love with this beautiful country and are not really ready to go back home. They would like to stay here and maybe work a little bit before they go back to their home country. When you're determining the school that you're going to, it's important to ensure that the school is on the postgraduate work permit approval list, that if you go to that school, you'll be able to apply for a work permit. Not all schools you go to that are DLIs would qualify you for a work permit. So it's very important to verify that as well. And the list is actually on the Canadian immigration website. You can Google it, you'll find the list, verify that your school is on that list, and there's a check mark to yes, that you will be able to get a work permit if you go to that school, and that's the one that you want to go for. One thing to know is that your postgraduate work permit upon graduation typically depends on the duration of your studies. So if you came for a program that is 1 year, then you're going to get a 1-year work permit. If you came for a program that is 2 years or more, you're going to get a 3-year work permit for you. So it's always dependent on the length of your study, except for 2 years or more, you just get 3 years work permit. That's something too that people take into consideration when they're determining what school to go into, what program to do, and all of that. The third thing to consider, which I do a lot for my clients, is even though most of them are not necessarily at the initial stages really thinking about long term, they just want to come study in Canada, during our consultation, I look ahead for them. I have the experience, I have the knowledge. I was once an international student and I came and I didn't go back. I loved Canada and I was able to go through the system, go through the rules, go through the immigration route, and become a permanent resident and then a Canadian citizen. So I know that some of my international students may eventually fall in love with Canada when they arrive. So I want to position them for success from the get-go. So when I'm having my consultation with them, I'm looking at their age, I'm looking at their work experience, I'm looking at their language ability, I'm looking at the program of study they are coming for to determine what the best option would be for them in terms of the province they are going to, in terms of the program they're going to be taking, and what the chances of permanent residence would be. Most of the time, I try to position my clients in provinces that would give them more than one option to become permanent residents. When I say more than one option, a province that has a special route for international students in their provincial programs to become permanent residents. A province that will give my clients extra points, extra benefits for schooling in their province, for maybe working in their province, so that it makes it easy for them to become permanent residents. There are a few provinces that have that. One big example is Saskatchewan, of course. Saskatchewan has route for international students who school and work in Saskatchewan. So it makes it very easy for you to convert and become permanent residents as well if you play your cards very well and you know exactly what you need to do with your role. It's very, very important, and I like to do that for my clients. Many people have found it very valuable because they know exactly when they arrive. If they decide that once I get here, I want to get permanent resident, they like Canada, then they know exactly what the next step is that they will be taking to ensure that they become permanent residents. So it's important to have that in your plan as well. Of course, cost of living. All provinces were not created equally. Yes, I will say that. They were not created equally. What you would probably pay for like a full house in Saskatchewan or in New Brunswick, you might be paying that for a 1-bedroom in Toronto. It's so important to look at the cost of living in the city that you're going to and let that play a part too in your decision, because as an international student, you can only work 20 hours per week, and most of the times they're not jobs that are high wage. So it's not like you're going to be making a ton of money while going to school. So it's important to ensure that your cost of living is going to be low and very affordable for you to make your life easy as you're going through school, so that you're not stressing out, because the bills in Canada, they keep coming the moment you arrive. It's very important to have that at the back of your mind when you're looking at school and trying to determine your cost, because that also will play part even in your study permit approval as well, and the amount of funds that you will be showing. Once you've done all of this, you've applied to the school, and normally school processing time depends. For postgraduate diplomas, sometimes it could take anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks. You could get your admission. Undergraduate programs, it depends on the school. Sometimes it could take anywhere from a month to 3 months, depending on the time frame that you're applying. Master's program is slightly different, because some master's program in Canada would wait for the deadline to elapse before they start making decisions. So after the deadline, they review all the applications and make a decision. Some would give on rolling basis. I work with some schools that give all admission offers on rolling basis as well, and there's some, of course, that you're waiting for those deadlines. It's very important to know what your timelines will look like so that you can plan better in terms of, okay, this is what I need to do now to ensure that when it's time, I'm actually getting my study permit, I'm able to come to Canada in the right time. It's so important to do that. And then of course you have your admission, and that's great and that's wonderful. We get into the bigger and sometimes I would say more complicated phase of your journey to Canada as a student. I'm just going to end this video here now talking about the things you need to consider in terms of study, your costs, your program, DLI, postgraduate work permit, that you meet the requirements, all of that, so that you're not wasting time in the process. Once you do that, you're good to go. Thank you once again. I hope that this was good. I hope that you got some information and things that you should look out for when looking to study in Canada, and I will see you on my next video. If you need any help, you need any assistance with applying to schools in Canada, getting admission, not sure what to do, you need some guidance, definitely book a consultation. That's always the first place to start, and I really look forward to talking to you and walking through what your options would be and helping you come to Canada and probably welcoming you to Canada as well. Anyways, take care once again and have a great day, and subscribe if you've not subscribed, and if you're a subscriber, thank you very much for always watching my video. I really do appreciate it. Take care. Bye bye.